We get to see what's on the other side of the portal, and we get to find out just exactly who Arietta is.
You are listening to And If Love Remains, a unique show spotlighting people, ideas, science, culture, and art. Your host, Mike Lovett.
Hi, and welcome to And If Love Remains. I am your host, Mike Levitt, and I have a very special guest today. We're going to be talking to Betsy Love. Betsy is an author and is the author of many books, but she's working on a new series now under the pen name of Lizzie Ann Love, and the book is part of the Mystic's Tale series. It's a fantasy book. We're going to talk about that and writing in general, all kinds of fun stuff. Welcome to the show, Betsy.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mike. It's really fun to be here.
It's my pleasure. It's so great to have you. Now, we've known each other for a while, and it was fun kind of catching up and doing, getting to see what new things you're doing. Talk to me about a little bit, let the audience know, I know you, but my audience probably doesn't. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your writing, what some of the things that you've done and written, and how you got started with that.
Okay, well, my first experience was when I was just a little girl. I don't even know how old I was. It was before I even started school. My mom would take a pen or a pencil and she would create these little loop-de-loops. And I learned later that those were words, and I would try and mimic those. And all through elementary school, junior high, high school, I loved creating little stories. And my English teacher, she was my creative writing teacher, just loved everything I wrote. And she said, someday, Betsy, you're going to be published. And she also encouraged me to submit some of my writing to literary magazines. Now, mind you, that was back in the 70s when there was no digital age. And I was too chicken to actually send anything in. And then when I married my dear sweet husband, he's my biggest fan, and he would let me go to the library while he watched the kids, and I would write by hand, and then my sister would type it up. Now, that first full-length story I created, will never see the light of day. It just won't. It's just really just kind of my practice story, my get my feet wet.
Do you think every author has to have a practice story?
I think so. Everybody I've talked to says, I have a story that'll never see the light of day. But, and I can't remember who it was that said it, and it might have been Stephen King, but don't quote me on that. But someone said, to be a good writer, you have to write 1 million words, and then you have to write 1 million more. So I think I'm in my second million at least.
So you're getting pretty good then.
Well, I hope so. I get good reviews on my books, but
yes.
I think every author reads their book at least, 100 or more times, and they think, who's going to read this dribble?
And then you get the reviews, and people say, "Oh, it's wonderful," and it is wonderful writing. I've read several of your books.
Thank you.
Oh yes, it is. I am curious. And maybe use this new series as an example. Like, how do you come up with ideas, and where do you? Because you've written lots of different kind of genre type stuff. What inspired you? What inspires you enough to go, oh, I need to write that?
Oh, gosh, it's kind of hard to say where that idea originally came from, but I started writing it clear back in like 2006, I want to say, and I would dabble with it here and there. And as I was writing other things, and at the time that I started writing it, people were saying, oh, fantasy's not that big, it's not that great, we want other things. And so I had submitted a book and to several different publishers, and they said, no, thank you. Your writing is good, but we're not interested in this story. And I got mad. And I said, all right, well, what are they writing? Well, at the time, mystery, suspense, especially with elements of romance in it, was really huge. And so in my state of frustration, I said, I'm going to write a mystery suspense. Now, at the time, I didn't have any idea what I was going to write about. And then I started telling my daughter this about this book that my mother started reading to me, and she never finished it. And my daughter said, well, Mom, why don't you write your own ending? And that's how Identity was born. So I wrote my own ending on that one. And then
I don't think I knew that.
Oh, it's out of print. I'm in the process of getting my rights back on it.
Oh, good.
So I should have a contract in the mail any day now. So,
Woo!
and then I can republish it. And I don't know that I will. I had a couple of ideas for sequels to it, but I've kind of lost interest in that genre. And I'm just having so much fun writing other things.
Right. Right. So this new series is a young adult urban fantasy. And so that means it's fantasy, but it takes place in the city, I assume. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of. I live up here in the White Mountains in Show Low now. We've been here a little less than a year and a half, and we just love it up here. Well, when we used to go vacationing up here, we would go camping out at a place called Brown Creek, and we would hike the stream up to this huge monolithic rock that just juts out of the forest floor. There's no rhyme or reason for it to be there. It's probably about 6 to 8 feet wide and probably about 15 to 20 feet tall. And it's just kind of round, and it's got all these cool crags in it. And I looked at that, and my son was actually with us, and he was drawing a picture of it. And he said, Mom, he said, wouldn't this be cool if this was a portal to somewhere? And man, that just sparked my imagination. And I thought, what's on the other side of that portal? So that's what really got my imagination sparked. And so I was teaching high school up here at the time, and I just love teenagers. I just think they are the bomb. And I was, just kind of playing with some ideas. And I thought, well, what if, of course, that's an author's favorite phrase, is what if,
right?
And I said, well, what if there's a mystic on the other side of this? And what if he brings a dragon's egg? And what if he gives it to my main character to hatch? And so that's where that story kind of started.
Fun.
So she has all kinds of adventures, and I love her dragon. Of course, he's just a baby dragon, and he talks baby talk, but he connects with her little brother, who's not quite 2 years old, and they just have this little bond. And this dragon has an enchantment put over him, so he looks like the family dog. And so everybody calls him, the dog.
Right.
But JW, the little brother, calls him Ducky. And so she mistakenly thinks, oh, he's saying doggy, but he can't pronounce it. And he says, no, not doggy, Ducky. And so she begins to think maybe he sees this dragon for what it really is. And so that's kind of where that started. And there's lots of intrigue, lots of battling, lots of creatures from the other side who come through the portal, and it's been a lot of fun to write.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I finished it about 2 years ago, and I uploaded it, and then I decided to change my name or publish it under my pen name. And so I gave it a new cover and a new pen name, and it seems to be doing okay. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. So the name of the book is The Dragon Keeper, and the new one that's coming out is The Dragon Keeper's Destiny. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And we get to see what's on the other side of the portal, and we get to find out just exactly who Arietta is.
Wow.
So
Arietta, is that the main character?
That is the main character. In the current book, The Dragon Keeper, they call her Loretta. That's her name.
Okay.
But she has a destiny, and she finds out that her real name is Arietta. And so she and her friends go through the portal, and they get to see what's on the other side. They run into ogres. They meet the fairies. They, meet all kinds of mythical creatures. And we find out why the mythical creatures are on that side of the portal. And in book 3, I'm about halfway through writing. I'm a little over halfway through writing book 3, and that will be a time travel, and we find out why the portal is there.
Do you think this will be a 3-book series, or do you have plans for more than 3?
Well, I have a 3-book series planned, and I kind of want to wrap up the whole series in 3 books, but I'm thinking of having some spin-offs because, we don't really know what goes on while Arietta's at school with her brother and the dragon. So I thought it would be fun to write some short little novelettes about the mischief that they might get into. I can see a romance blooming between 2 of the side characters. So I don't plan on writing these huge full-length characters with any spin-offs. They'll just be little novelettes to fill in some of the backstory and just have some fun with it.
Now, when you're writing, do you is how much of a mystery is the story to you? Do you tend to outline everything, or do you let it kind of unfold, or what's that process like for you?
Well, the story unfolds for me. I kind of know where I'm going with the story as far as how it's going to end, but as far as the process, a lot of times I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I'm what you would call a pantser for sure. And I wrote a book called Plotting for Pantsers for anybody who wants to see what my method or what the madness is to my method. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a total pantser, and it's a lot of fun. It's also called
and a pantser means you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. I take it.
Absolutely. A lot of people call it organic writing.
Okay.
Some people call it
pantser better.
Some people call it discovery writer because you're discovering it as you go along. And so it's a lot of fun because sometimes I just don't know.
I would think as a, musician, I try to put as a composer, I try to like put myself in, it's a kind of a different thing than putting myself in a character. I guess when I've written musicals, I've done that, but I kind of know where everything's going before I write the music. And so it's got to be interesting. You kind of have to put yourself in Loretta's shoes and like see the world as she would see it in order to write like that, I would think.
Right. Yeah, I do. I've really gotten to know her character as I've written this, and the more I write her, the more I like her. And yeah, she's been a lot of fun to climb inside her head and travel in her shoes. And so I tried outlining one book, and by chapter 2, this character showed up, and I said, "Who the heck are you, and what are you doing in my book?" And I don't know if you've read Soulfire, but it was the character of the harlot. I was like, "What are you doing in my book?" So, and she totally she didn't hijack the story, but she hijacked the plot of, of one of the characters. And so it was a lot of fun to write her in when I had never intended for her to be there.
Oh, that's fabulous. Oh, that's wonderful. What a fun discovery.
Yeah, it was fun.
When I wanted to ask you, and I want to talk more about your book, but I do have a question about like publishing in the modern age. You've had books. Sounds like you've had some books published by publishers, kind of more traditional publishers, and then you've also self-published. Like as people who maybe want to get into writing and want to publish, what's the benefit? Like how do you see the world kind of going? Having kind of been in both those worlds.
Right. My first 2 books were published traditionally, and And I didn't like that they kept so much of my royalties. I mean, granted, they did the editing and they did the cover art, and they did those things and the formatting and everything that goes with publishing a book, but they did no marketing. And I found that I was having to do all the work of trying to get people to buy my book. And so I thought, why don't I just take on the entire role and keep more of the royalties? But I wasn't quite ready to go completely indie. And so I stopped publishing through my original publisher, and I went to a small press. And I've been friends with the editors and publishers for quite some time. And I just love them. They will be forever deep, deep in my heart of appreciation, because they're the ones that encouraged me to go indie. And they told me, as long as you're writing, we will publish everything you write because we love what you write. And that just made me feel so good. And then when I posted on Facebook that I was going to publish my next book myself, and I got a private message from my editor, and she said, "You're not going to publish through us anymore?" And I said, "Are you mad at me?" And she said, "Oh, heck no." She said, "I'm so excited for you. This is just a great step for you." And every time I have a new book come out, she will say, "Oh, this is so exciting. I can't wait to read this one." And because they have been so wonderful, and they've returned all of my files for all of the books that they've edited, I give them a free book of any book that comes out that I've published. So
yeah.
I appreciate them so much.
Yeah, what a wonderful relationship to have, and that's really neat that they encouraged you to do that. That's got to be kind of unusual in today's
It is
world.
unusual. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm still fighting. I've had to fight for about 3 years to get my rights back on my first 3 books, and I'm finally starting to see some headway with that.
Good. How's and how what has been the experience like self-publishing, as far as, like, I mean, obviously you're having to do more of the formatting. You're gonna have to, it's all on you. If it is to be, it's up to me.
Exactly. And it's hard work. I just kind of dabbled at it. You've heard poking at it with a stick.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I've done for the last 2 years, being an indie author. And with my husband getting close to retirement, I said, you know what? I've got to get my act together. And so I bought me a planner. It's called Author Productivity. And I love the way it's laid out. And I've done all these, I listened to all these in other indie authors. I listened to how to publish, how to do this, how to do that. Where do I go for this and that? Because it's all on me. And I did hire a cover artist. I was trying to do my own covers, and they looked very amateurish. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet and pay a cover designer. And she does a beautiful job. And I just love what she does.
Yeah, the one I see here on Amazon for the Dragon Keeper is a beautiful cover. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, that image of the dragon, yes, I sent to my daughter-in-law, who's a graphic artist, and I said, I need for him to be purple, and I need for this, and I need for that, and I need the dragon sitting on her hand. And so she did all these tweaks for me. Because that same image is on the first cover of the book. But then when I sent it to the designer, I said, I really would like to keep the dragon in the model of, the girl holding the dragon in her hand. And so she did. And she just, the font, the back cover, the layout, everything is just beautiful. And so I'm getting ready to do a cover reveal on the second book, and I can't wait to share that.
Whoa, that's exciting. That's so fun. That's great. What now? The other aspect, I guess, business aspect when it comes to, book and being an author today, is like getting yourself known. Like the good news about Amazon and self-publishing is that, like, it's anybody can do it. The bad news is that anybody can do it. and so there. there are millions. So what is your strategy for getting the word out, marketing, trying to, have yourself seen above the crowd?
Well, there's so many pieces to the puzzle. It feels like you're putting together 1,000-piece puzzle, and you got to come up with the edges first. And so I think that is the biggest edge is your author branding and your social media presence and all of those things, but without being buy my book in your face all the time. And I have found that by just interacting with other people, and like in my Instagram account, I've grown my followers there, and and I'm just creating fun videos. I started TikTok. I swore I would never get involved
Right.
with TikTok. I thought it was the evil bane, that only junk was on there, and
right.
but I have found that the algorithms, that the more readers I follow and interact with and like their videos, that's what's showing up on my feed. And I'm finding that, in 1 month time, I went from one follower, which was my sweet daughter, up to 1,500 like-minded followers, author followers, reader followers. And I'm actually seeing a little bit of an increase in sales. And so I think the most important thing is you brand yourself. And my brand is stories where love makes all the difference. Whether it's my science fiction romances, whether it's my fantasy, whatever, that's my author brand.
Okay, so that's your theme. That's going to be through all your books. That's what you mean by that?
Right. And it's not necessarily being in love, because love can mean so many different things. But, having the last name Love kind of helps a little bit.
Sure
with that.
does.
But anyway, let's see, what was I saying? Oh, about, the pieces to the puzzle.
The pieces to the puzzle, right.
It's being out there with your social presence. And then the second thing is finding writers and readers like you, because there is such a plethora of genres out there and subgenres, and it's finding your tribe, finding the people that love what you write. So I've been doing, going onto websites like Story Origin and Prolific Works, and just different websites that will swap newsletters, that will promote your book. Also, prior to release, it helps to lower the price on, a previous book to spark interest. And like I said, there's so many pieces to the puzzle. We could be here for another probably 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. and maybe we should have do an author series. I'm just kidding. But right. That's right. keep the thing, right? Well, that's wonderful. So tell us a little bit, give us a sneak peek on this new book that's coming out in March. Is you mentioned we get to see a little bit behind the portal.
Right. Well, without giving too much away from the first book, because I actually had written it as one book, and my husband said, no, this needs to be 2 books, because I cut the ending way too short and there was so much more to tell. So I split the book in half. So just kind of a heads up, I do leave book 1 as a cliffhanger. And so okay, this is a spoiler. So if you're listening to this and you don't want a spoiler, cover your ears and go blah, 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 blah. Okay, so in book 1, the bad guy kidnaps her little brother. And so now her motivation to go through the portal is to go rescue her brother. But when she gets across or gets through the portal, they have other ideas for her, and that she has a destiny, excuse me, she has a destiny she has to fulfill. And so now she's like, oh my gosh, how can I fulfill this destiny and rescue my brother at the same time? So.
Oh, That sounds great. And it's funny. I listen to or I read some of the books that my kids read, and and they're fun and they have dragons and stuff. But this sounds so exciting. I think they're really gonna love it. I think it's gonna be right up their alley, and I'm excited to read the first one and and have get ready for the second one. So that's wonderful. We're talking to Betsy Love. She's an author. She writes under the pen name Lizzie Ann Love. She's published book 1 in the Mystic Tales series, and which is called the Dragon Keeper, and book 2 will be coming out in March, which again is the Dragon Keeper's Destiny. What else are you working on these days? What's your what kind of things are you working on? What other projects you're doing? What's coming up next for Betsy?
Okay, you know how I got mad because they wouldn't take my book?
Yes.
My first book. So and I've heard this several times, that if you want to be successful, write to market. Well, right now the market is hot with small town cowboy romances. And I wrote a book a few years ago called The Miracle of Joy, which is about an elf who accidentally turns into a human and has to find a wife for this little girl who she had written a letter to Santa Claus. And so that was her assignment. Well, she uses one of her miracles and turns into a human. Well, the whole thing takes place in a little tiny town in Texas called Miracle, Texas, which is a made up town. So I can't get in trouble with anybody.
That is a great name.
So, and I didn't intend for The Miracle of Joy to be part of a series, but as I thought about this town of Miracle, I just got really excited, and I thought, oh, I could write all these cute little romances, and I could add an element of magic in my Christmas books that I plan on including in this series. So I'm writing right now small town Texas cowboy romance, and I'm having so much fun. I have a reader magnet that is finished. It's just with my editor right now. And I have book 1 in the series called The Miracle of Sweethearts Cafe, which is how the whole thing kind of got started, because most of the story revolves around the Sweethearts Cafe.
Oh, fun. That sounds delightful. That sounds
They're all clean. They're all sweet. I won't write anything that I wouldn't want a 12-year-old to read.
Very good. And us parents are grateful for that. Well, I want to thank you. And, so let us know, what's the best, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if somebody wants to follow you on Instagram, how would you like them to get in touch? How's the best way to find you?
Well, you can find me at authorbetsylove.com. No, just betsylove.com. Sorry. Author Betsy Love at gmail.com is my email address. If you sign up for my newsletter on my betsylove.com website, you will get 2 free stories. One is the first story in my science fiction romance. It's called The Healer's Heart. And anyway, that's a 5-book series so far. Let's see. You can follow me on Instagram at Author Betsy Love. I'm on TikTok at Author Betsy Love, and on Twitter, I think I'm Betsy Love Author. For some reason, it got switched. I don't know why. But anyway, those are the 3 main platforms I'm on. I'm also on Facebook just as Betsy Love -author.
Okay. And we'll put all of those in the links in the description of the podcast. So if anybody wants to, you can just go to the description and find out what's happening in the world of Betsy Love, author. I want to thank you so much for being on the show, being part of And If Love Remains. Thank you so much for taking your time to tell us and to talk to us and share these wonderful stories and hopefully sell some books, right? Yes, it would. Yes, it
Close
would.
to my husband's retirement, so I can be his support now.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you, Betsy. I have to have you on again. This was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. I had a blast. And Mike, thank you so much for inviting me. This really has been fun.
You are listening to And If Love Remains.